everyone, and welcome to another podcast of El Sol. My name is Valentina Sanabria. I'm the lead media specialist here at the agency, and today we have a special cohort of people here and ready to give you the best information about youth mental health. With me today are our youth interns for the Cultural Connect program. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Jahziel. I'm the event coordination officer.
Hi, I'm Scarlett. I'm the lead youth officer.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. But we also have a very special guest. We have Tomi Obideyi with us. Tomi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Valentina. Hi, everyone. My name is Tomi. I actually call myself Tomi the Encourager, and I'm super glad to be with everyone here in this space to talk about mental health, and that's something that's very core and needed in this community to talk about mental health, especially among our youth. So I'm excited.
Definitely. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here. And you know, who else to hear it better from than the actual youth, right? So, all right, guys, you guys ready?
Yes.
Let's get started.
Yes.
I know you guys have a couple of questions for Tomi and a couple of questions for each other. So go for it. Jahziel, I know you're getting started.
Okay, thank you for being here with us today, Tomi.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, or we really appreciate it. But
Thank you.
I do have one question to start off this
Okay.
podcast. When we talk about pressure to succeed, what does that mean for the youth today?
Oh, that is a good one, Jahziel. All right. So I feel like when we say about pressure, honestly, it really is not just about grades and getting into college, right? It's not just this thing of like, okay, because back then nowadays there's influencers. You don't have to kind of go through that route of the traditional go to college, get a job and all that stuff. Especially it's really hard in this economy today to even get a job these days. But I think a lot of it is really just saying like, oh, I see my peers and the comparison aspect now. Now, because we have an influencers, we have all these different types of ways like YouTube to make money. I feel like teens are in this pressure to be like, I have to be that way. I have to make my millions. I have to get lots of followers. I have to do this now. And if I don't do it that way, is it that I'm really achieving or doing anything? If people don't know my name, is it really that I'm important? So I feel like the pressure for today in teens is really changing. When I was a teen, that wasn't a thing. And we didn't have social media like that, y'all.
Right.
But now today, I feel like so much the pressure is kind of like this superstar and I gotta be this and do this and lights. And not many of us are in that. And so I feel like I'm seeing this type of thing where teens are feeling that pressure to be that something that maybe they feel like deep down they're not. And that kind of gets me a little bit concerned, honestly.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel that a lot of the social media is influencing teens to push to something that they are not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much bright minds. They just need to understand that they have multiple ways to succeed.
Come on.
Besides being a superstar.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like, for example, you're striving to become a doctor.
Thank you. Thank you. We
yes.
tried. Okay.
Like, shout out.
Thank you. You know, we tried.
No, yeah. See, there's success everywhere. They just have to find their own route. Not everybody is meant for spotlight. So
Yeah.
I really,
Yeah.
I
really
agree.
do feel.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Scarlett, you want to go ahead? I know you have a couple questions too.
With that, I completely agree. I was thinking also, what expectations are youth feeling the most right now in regards to that academically, socially, or personally even?
Yeah. So I feel like, again, like academically, it's this concept thing of I have to be perfect. I have to be excellent. I got to make my A's. My mom and dad, you know, especially for me, I know, like, you know, being in an underserved community, your parents are kind of like, I put food on this table and you need to go to school and you got to kind of basically like make it out of the hood type of story, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it feels like there's that type of pressure nowadays that you're like, as a teen, you're like, well, I can't disappoint my parents. I got to do well in school. I got to do this. If I come home with an F, they're going to be like, what the heck are you doing? And then I think just like socially, again, it's just that place of like, you have to feel happy. You have to feel this way. You have to be on. You got to put in this type of persona that you're that person, right? You're that girl. You're that guy. Like I feel like, again, that's what I'm seeing with a lot of teens, especially when we just talked about social media. And so there's just this type of like, you know, pressure to be like, okay, look at me. I'm that person. Look at me. I'm doing this. When it's like, no, yes, we want you to be that person and you're amazing, but you don't have to feel like you have to be pressured to be something that you feel like that's just a lot to maintain, because it can be a lot to maintain, honestly. And then I think personally, it's just like, again, knowing, I feel like what I'm starting to see sometimes is that identity crisis of like, who am I really? what is it that I can do? And I think that's where teens, of course, and we all know this, it's like going through that type of like adolescence and trying to know who yourself is, and you're going through the journey, which is important, you know. But again, because of so much of this type of pressure to be in something that you're like, I gotta do this and I gotta show up in this way, it kind of takes away that type of really healthy discovery where you're kind of like, okay, I want to delve into this sports, or I like chess, I like this, and then because people are like, well, that's not cool, you're like, well, maybe I have to be the social media influencer because people are gonna make fun of me for doing this, and it's like, no. So I can go on and on, so I'll leave it from there. So
Right. That pressure of like, you know, if I'm not what everybody else is doing, then I'm different, then I'm the outcast, then I'm, you know, not, I guess, cool enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, I see it within, you know, the youth as well. Obviously, you know, I graduated high school years and years ago.
Same here.
And, you know, I feel like when I was in high school, social media was starting to like, you know, become a bigger thing. There was, you know, influencers were like probably like, you know, very few.
Yes.
So I feel like I didn't have that pressure, you know.
Me too.
I always wanted to go into media stuff. That's why, you know, I became, you know, who I am today.
Yes.
But even then, I still don't feel like, you know, oh, like I need to be like this huge persona, because that's just not who I am.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Great if you are, but if you're not, then, you know, great too. You know. Like you said, we all have our different qualities and different things. So, you know. But I think you guys do have it a little bit tougher.
Yes,
But you know, places like these help with that stuff. So that's good.
Yeah.
No, yeah. To add on that, I want to ask also, do you think that it deteriorates youth mental health over time?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
starting, I feel like a lot of youth started in social media early, especially like this day and age. So do you think from like elementary school to high school, it just like ticks at them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one right there, definitely. Like, again, so I'm like a health educator and health education specialist. And I was like, I think we had our conversation outside earlier where it's like, I did a lot of training on like suicide prevention and mental health. And we used to go to different schools and talk to middle school, high schoolers about like, hey, like if you see something like your peer, go talk to them. You're not the be all end all, because we have to understand that you're not the one to like be like a counselor or a doctor to fix them in some per se, right? Or treat them. But I do see that, and that because of that, and there's so many where we talk about the suicide rates among youth nowadays and how high it is. It's like almost, I think, the second top most way, unfortunately, how people or young people are dying. That's something that we're now really like in Riverside County per se, going into schools and say, okay, we need to talk to the youth and stuff. And of course, probably San Bernardino County as well. So I do see it. And we've had some conversations where we talk to even teachers and parents where sometimes even a little child, like an elementary, they might not know what suicide is per se, or what mental health really is, like mental health issues or disorders. But they will say like, I just want to go to sleep and not wake up. And you're like, a little kid saying something like that, you kind of be like, what you mean you don't want to wake up? Like, can we talk about that?
Right.
So in some way, they're kind of starting to grasp a little bit of like what that means of like, maybe there are as a child now going through that kind of like, life feels a lot, and they shouldn't feel that way, you know? So again, like I think you said, Valentina, it's like, we didn't really grow up in that type of sense,
Right.
or maybe it wasn't really talked about, but I'm seeing a lot of youth now, especially getting to very young ages, like very young, like 5 or 6 or something, already kind of feel like they're contemplating stuff like that where it shouldn't be the case. And I'm like, you're too young to even understand and grasp that, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, no, that's way way
Right.
That you know, you catch me off guard with that one, because I mean, I work with people of all ages, so I'm not really dived into, you know, a specific group of you know, kids or teenagers. But hearing this, it's so sad. I mean, you know. I think back to like my early years when I was 5, 6, 7. I was outside playing with my friends, you know.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? Like I wasn't thinking that, you know. I wasn't, you know. I didn't want to go to sleep. I didn't want to take a nap.
Right.
You know. So I know, like that's so sad to think about, that these kids are, you know,
Yeah.
already contemplating something like that. That's really sad.
It's really sad.
You don't think like some parents should maybe like limit the time of kids being on social media? Just because if it's impacted them like
Right.
this, you don't know how
Yes.
it could do later in the future.
Right.
And I feel since we didn't grow up on it, I didn't grow up on it that much. I didn't get a phone probably till like high school.
Okay, same.
So, you know, I didn't experience all of that and
So young.
throughout
Yeah.
throughout my young age. So I was just outside, like she said, outside of my friends, and I felt like no worries in the world. I was just being a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you start growing up and then you start feeling stressed, but obviously about your come up or like what do you want to do in life.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's regular for us right now. But since kids have a different view in it, like you said, I feel like they need maybe just a little more limitations.
Yeah. No, so I agree with that. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing that. And it's like, again, you can't blame the parents. I'm not a mom just yet. One day to be married and have kids. But I can only imagine it's like you're working, you're trying to make sure to provide. And then so you kind of do want to give sometimes the easiest thing to your child of like, you know what, you're crying here.
Right.
iPad.
Right, iPad. Go sit down, leave me alone. And especially, it's a lot. But of course, yes, there has to be the limitations. There has to be this level of like, okay, yes, you had screen time. Okay, get off of it now. Go play, go outside, whatever you can do. And so it has to be the balance in there. Especially, I think what I'm seeing a lot is too with newer generations was where they're like that type of social aspect, especially that we're kind of like you can make friends online now and not really that like in person like this that we're doing.
Right.
Sometimes you can start seeing that little bit social awkwardness. Not that it's bad, but if you're seeing a lot more youth to feel like they're just more, I just want to be isolated. I just want to be to myself. You're like, well, we're actually very social beings. So I think that, and again, there's more research, so don't quote me on this, but I think that's where I'm seeing where it's like social media can even hinder a lot of that social aspect of like conversations in person, how to carry a conversation, how to talk to someone, et cetera, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a really good point. I know you have a question coming up right now about like the early stages, so I don't know if you want to ask that one, Scarlett, because I know that kind of has to deal with what we're discussing right now.
So me personally, like hearing that, I grew up and went to school in San Bernardino County. And I go to college in this city too, in San Bernardino, at Cal State San Bernardino.
Nice.
So since like a very young age, I have seen like a lot of youth like deal with like suicide or substance abuse and having to like help friends along the way, like early on, as young as like 8 years old with like mental health issues. Now looking back to that younger age, now that I'm older, I think it's very important for people to like understand like the warning signs and for example, like when does it become like early warning signs, like when there's pressure beginning to show, like when does it become like harmful?
Okay. So like what I used to teach a lot of with the youth and stuff like that with like the different, like you said, early warning signs or like those like risk factors or something, really more of kind of like in other types of like suicide prevention trainings I did what they called like invitations, right? And it's an invitation in the sense of the person who's seeing those signs to actually say, maybe I need to ask and see if they're okay. So things that you probably will know is irritability, of course. Someone's getting agitated, just kind of like, you're like, hey, what's up? And you're like, oh, leave me alone. And you're like, oh, okay, I was just trying to
say hello.
Right. Like I was just trying to say hello, okay. Or, things like withdrawal. I think that's a big thing that we're seeing a lot with youth as well. It's just that type of like, I just want to be isolated. And again, I bet like if parents are watching this, they probably like, yes, I see my my child go to their room all the time. I see my child just kind of like, I'd say how they're doing and they're just like, I'm fine. And then don't really give a lot of like context or details, right? So that's a big thing too. And of course, like changes in sleep and appetite, right? I think, of course, youth need lots of sleep, lots of sleep, even more than adults because your brain is still developing. I think it takes up to almost age 25 to the point where it kind of stops developing. So sleep is a huge thing. So if you're starting to see your youth feeling like, the young person feeling like, I'm so tired, or they're going to class and you just see their head down all the time, or again, just that isolation type of aspect, it's kind of like, okay, what is going on? I'm kind of getting nervous. You don't really do this. Or even if they do that, it's still also a concern because I think sometimes people are like, oh, that's what they always do. They're always putting their head down. Every time I first met them, that's how they always are. And it's like, yeah, but do you ever had a chance to stop and say why they're doing that?
Exactly.
Because think about it. Yes, we might have some introverts, but because you're introvert doesn't mean it's okay to isolate. Even people who are introverted that kind of like a little, they're a bit maybe quiet or whatever, they still need some social. I have introvert friends and tell me, like, trust me, when I talk to them, they're literally like on another side. I'm like, you wild. So that's what I say when it's,
let it flow
there
for them
you go.
too. Yeah.
So just because you're introvert, because I think we throw that around that you think, oh, they're always so quiet. It's like, no, they just need to be used to. So I think those are some things that I'm starting to see. And perfectionism, that is a huge one too. That constant thing of, I have to be perfect. I have to be this way. I have to do this. I have to show up. And like we just kind of discussed right now of all these different stuff of the pressures. That's a huge one. And I will say I've also been in that and sometimes kind of have moments of like, I have to be this way. I have to do this. And it can get to a person's mind where it's like, that constant where it can hit your sleep schedule because you're like, I gotta work on this and I gotta do this college application and I gotta I gotta be this way. My parents are expecting me to be the top. I'm the first child. Ooh, we can go into first child.
Tell me about it.
I'm the first child.
Right.
I'm the first child, so I gotta make it out of the hood for them. So there's a lot I can go in. So I feel like that constant places of just like you're losing interest, that you're seeing that are stuff that we have to understand. And it can become harmful, right? Because if they're not really getting that type of medical care or that type of professional help, seeking a therapist, the person can eventually probably be like, well, what's the point of living? What's the point of me being here? And what's the point of doing things? Like, I think sometimes we see youth also will sometimes like cut themselves or, do the substance abuse that you're talking about. And many times it's because there's an underlying issue. I think we will reprimand like, oh, you're now a druggie, you're this. But it's like, okay, but why are they thinking that they have to seek that? There's something underlying and we need to hit to that underlying. So hopefully we can stop that symptom, that behavior that they're doing.
Yeah, try to get it from the root cause of it, right?
There you
Begin
go.
asking yourself, not so much like, oh, this is happening, but why is it happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, well, this is amazing information, and I think our youth here can take it to like your friends, your peers, your siblings, whoever it is. Even for us, like even me, I'm like, okay, maybe I should be doing that too, or I should be questioning that about me too, because like you, sometimes I also feel like, man, like, am I doing the best that I can,
Same,
and even
same.
though you might think like, yeah, you kind of are if you really think about it.
Yes.
There's always room for improvement, right? Like, not saying that that's not the case, but you kind of have to like sit back and be like, you know what? Like, this is who I really am. Like, I can be like this.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes.
And I get it. I'm a first child too, so I get it. First generation too in college and everything here in the U.S. So, so I get it, and I know you guys, get it as well because I can tell you guys
The
are
first
relating to
child,
the conversation.
I could relate a lot. to that.
Okay.
It's always like I'm the one that gets the most smack, and then the younger ones, they're like, whatever.
I feel you.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That is very true. I think we all agree with that at this table, so that's good. All right, guys. Well, thank you. This was amazing information.